Welcome back to Bonneyville Transport Fever 2 on PS5. Welcome to my channel. Thank you very much for joining me. If you are joining me, please do hit that like button. And if you are hitting like, why not subscribe if you are not subscribed already, both of which don't cost you anything other than some minor muscle movements. If you want to support the channel in other ways, and it would be very much appreciated, please feel free to drop a super thanks or to have a look at membership. Right, so here we are. It's 1929. It's nearly 1930s. So, where are we and what are we doing? I love looking at it like this because it looks all so organized and simple, doesn't it? We've got these lovely little towns doing stuff and thing, and everything looks good from a high level and all the rest of it. Anyway, let's turn on everything else and see what happens. Ah, my gosh, there's a whole lot happening. So, what have I been doing? Well, to be honest, I have continued to do what I was doing, which is sorting out these hubs. So, sorting out these hubs. Now, we do have stuff that is moving around. The volumes will go up and down, and the volumes will change. But we've been looking for big issue problems. Coslada freight, I still haven't managed to balance out completely. It's either too much steel, not enough steel, too much timber, not enough timber, etc. Rivas is the same, too much steel, blah blah blah. Rivas bricks has sorted itself out, which is great. The Villa de Cans freight. Yeah, okay, that needs a little bit of work, but yeah. So anyway, and as I've said before, this game is about dynamic balance. So once you change one thing, you change other things, and each other thing changes some more things, and so on and so forth, and such like in thing. Coslada has been up and down, but has finally decided, I think, that it wants fuel and goods. And I don't know if that's going to change. Hopefully it doesn't change, which is great. I have sent goods this way, and with any luck, no, these guys are not. Why are they not picking up goods? There's a goods selection here, and this is where the goods trucks come from. When they come from Coslada Transfer, and they pick up the goods and they take it to Cala de la Groigno, which is over there, and they drop them off. But it looks like no one's dropped any off yet. I thought they would have dropped them off by now. Why has this guy got nothing? He must have come from there or something. Anyway, that'll happen eventually. I haven't sorted out some of the other things. This literally just happened. Pardon me. I'm still getting rid of this nefarious cough. Yeah, and we've been working on trying to get the commuter lines balanced out. Again, not super easy. Especially this one. This one, Antiquaria Arrecife, is interesting. There's 177 people waiting on this one, and there's 95. So it needs to be bigger. It was bigger at one point, and then the passenger numbers seem to decline very rapidly, so I made it a lot smaller. So I'm just making it bigger in increments and see how we go. These are up and down, but they're busy. It's like King's Cross down here. You know, there's a lot of people waiting, but there are big trains coming, so that's fine. What I have also been doing is I have been working through electrification. So everything that you see in blue is currently electrified. So I did decide that I was going to electrify all the stuff through to Rivas. And I want to talk about Rivas in a minute because I had a problem there and it took me a little bit to sort it out. And the same through to Palencia and the same through to Ubeda. Now the reason that I did that was because this is actually a major hub. I know it doesn't look it in terms of size, in terms of like, you know, Villa de Cans and the amount of routes that connect to it, but there's a lot of stuff moving through here, and there's a lot of trains coming through from Villa de Cans through this way, and they were really tediously slow. So I decided when they came up for renewal that it was considerably much more worth my time to go through electrifying these lines. So I've electrified as far as there. And the only other thing I electrified is there's a goods truck which runs between these two. And there's also the ore trains. Now, the ore trains, I trimmed them down a little bit because we have an awful lot of ore, not a lot of coal, which is a heck of a surprise because I moved, if you remember, the coal trucks were all coming down here, and it was getting to be a bit of a bottleneck. So I moved it up here, and I have a lot of trucks, and I have a lot of trucks waiting. And again, it's just we're just unable to keep up with the demand for coal right now. There, in theory, there could be a sneaky way of doing this if you add a hub, which is connected to the two of them, and then you kind of set up a line. It sort of automatically fills itself. It's a bit weird. I might have a little to-do with that offline and see if I can get that to work, which might speed that up a bit because we could always do with some more steel. We do have a bit of a steel issue in general over the map. So I electrified the ore ones because they were going so tediously slow. They were holding up the line. And I thought, you know what? I may as well electrify this little bit. And the reason I wanted to do that is because now that this wants fuel, there's not very many places that supply fuel, but one of the places that is already getting fuel is down here. We're already bringing fuel in. So if I set up a fuel line, that goods train can bring goods over here and then pick up fuel and then run fuel all the way back here. And I can set up some trucks to take fuel into Kozlata, and then we're making a little bit of money. And I don't know if there's anything else over here, that we could pick up. I'm not sure, but it's worth looking into. So for the sake of this short section of line being electrified, I electrified it anyway. And that would make things move a little bit faster. And make things a little bit smarter. So I've been through. Ubeda was the same. Ubeda was a problem child. But again, we went through and sorted a few things out, got rid of a few bottlenecks, made sure of a few things, checked a few things, identified where we had some issues or problems or things that had broken that needed to be replaced and so on. So we did all that. That's all great. That's electrified. That's all tickety-boo. This one here is now better. We had a huge backlog of plastics at one point. That has now been sorted. So the plastics is now making it over here to make goods over here, which is great. You can see there we're producing goods. I think the goods should be getting in here. Yep, 41 out of 44. And they're getting over here. So we need to think about also shipping more goods out of this place to where wants more goods, like Antiquera wants goods, which I think we're dropping off at Riva's. Tomaluso wants goods. Kozlata now wants goods. I think Colmenar wants goods. Yeah, so we've got a good supply that we can make sure that that's going. So that's all going fine. Not too busy. Not too busy at all. Distractions. Right, sorry, where was I? Yeah, so over here, Colmenar, Viejo, we haven't started shipping them goods or anything yet, but we probably should because we're already bringing trains over here. And we already have tools trucks and wheat trucks and machine trucks, which seem to be, there might be too many of those. The steel there is some steel, which is fine, not a vast amount of steel. The steel production is working okay. I have upgraded all of these trains now. So I upgraded this line, which was the coal line, also with electric, and it looks like we are now running almost at capacity for that. So these guys coming and going, which is fine. They're shorter, moving more frequently, and as you can see, they're not carrying necessarily a full load all the time. So again, that'll need a bit of a massage. Otherwise, they're doing okay. We've got the stuff going down here. This is just, we're not getting food from here anymore. I mean, I don't even know where they're sending food to. because we're not getting a lot. So I think the demand has been picked up, or the supply has been picked up elsewhere, and this plant is just too far away to supply food. So there you go. I mean, it might even be a case, honestly, that we just delete this whole station, delete this whole food plant line. Because nobody up here wants food. Tomalosa wants food, but it's got a food plant. So this is largely redundant, and we're spending money on this, bringing in wheat. We're transporting wheat down here. We've got trucks transporting wheat from over here. There's never any wheat being produced. There's hardly any food being produced. We're not really moving food down the line. I think this needs to be made redundant, and we need to get rid of it. And that's fine. It's been superseded by stuff elsewhere, which is hunky dory. We have been supplying wheat out of this place with ships. Again, it seems to want a lot of wheat from here. There's a lot of wheat backed up, but I say there's a lot of wheat backed up. I trimmed down to one ship, and that ship's now running full, which is fine. But again, this whole line may be redundant and not at all worth it, from any perspective whatsoever. What's this place like? Yeah, I mean, you know, we'd have to somehow get, yeah, no, that there's no, this is also possibly redundant. So that whole wheat and food line for this plant possibly needs to be just deleted, and we'll save ourselves some money and we'll get rid of all that because it's been replaced with something else. Right, so what are we needing to do? Well, I'll tell you what we're needing to do. Look at this. We've got all these lovely roads. So these just like appear at some point in the 1920s. You go from like not having them to suddenly you have them. And in some ways they're good. And this is, to be fair, this is part of the game that I like and also loathe. It's a transport game, and obviously roads, unless you're living under a rock, roads are an important part of transport, and we have these options for roads. Not a huge amount of options. We have some options. Now, what we're starting to see, and I'll have a look at Arrecife. What we're starting to see is obviously congestion. So we're starting to get congestion. Now, the other thing is with these demands is not all demands are being met. Why are not all demands being met? Well, one of the reasons why your demands possibly aren't being met is because you're not supplying all of the people who need it. So, for example, here, we originally plonked this down here, which is this hub. And this hub supplies this area, as you can see, which goes out here and does all these various bits and pieces. But there's places that it absolutely does not supply. And if you go and have a look, you will see that these places were not supplied. So these buildings down here that want fuel, they're not being supplied. And these buildings out here on the fringe are also not being supplied. So we need to start thinking about how we improve the supply network inside the towns. That might require a little bit of some thought, and it might also require us to do a little bit of something extra in terms of these kinds of hubs. These hubs tend to supply bigger areas, but you do need to figure out how to get them into the system. And you also need to be painfully aware when you put these in place, the computer recognizes them as a road. So these things here and private vehicles like this chappie over here, they see this as a road. So if you put it like in between places, the computer goes, oh, there's a road there, and drives through it. And then you get all this private transport going through your cargo depot, and holding up the cargo trucks, and it's a bit of a pain. It certainly is a bit of a pain. Now the other issue you have is traffic lights. So I don't know if it was on PC or whatever, but I was watching someone messing around with traffic lights on Transport Fever 2. But I don't think we have the option to do that. Certainly we don't have a tool at the minute to deal with traffic lights. So I can't choose to switch one of these traffic lights off. So I could say, oh, I don't want this to be a traffic lighted junction. I just want it to be a give way. Like this one would make more sense, and perhaps that one, and say I just want these to be giveaways, but I want that to be a traffic light. I can't do that as far as I can ascertain. So that's a person, but if you have a look here, there's no way to select this traffic light. It doesn't exist as an entity for me, so I can't mess around with that. And currently there is no tool to do that. Now that would be great, because the other issue is with the increased traffic, we want to make bigger roads. So we want to go with the larger street, which is the 4-lane street, right? So we want to say this is a 4-lane street. We might say, right, okay, we want this to be a 4-lane street over here. That automatically creates traffic lights at every junction, and I can't switch them off. So you end up with too many traffic lights, and when you have too many traffic lights, things start to break. And it's especially problematic with this kind of road network. It's where you have this, and then in another immediate junction, and then over here you have a junction and another immediate junction. Now the reason that happened is because I enlarged this space over here to accommodate this transport depot. So there you go. But you have things like here, this is a misaligned junction. So you don't want junctions too close together, because you end up with weird little traffic bottlenecks, which is not very good. Now, the other thing that I do not like about this process is if we want to upgrade a street, say we want to upgrade this street, currently the game removes my buildings, which I really don't like. It doesn't accommodate this happening without deleting buildings. And where there is a stop of some description, you get stuff like this: construction not possible. Why is that? 'Cause there's not even a stop here. Why is that not possible? This is just junction related. It's because these two junctions are too close together. So there's these structural issues with widening the roads. It's because in terms of scale, the roads are ridiculous. The roads are massively, massively wide compared to the buildings. The roads are definitely not to scale compared to the buildings. So that is a problem. Why is that a problem? Because, and it has real serious side effects, it's to do with this thing here: population, shopping facilities, and jobs. The population, the shopping facilities, and the jobs all have a tie-in directly to what people want and how much of it they want, etc., and also how well your town is growing. If I was to go through and correct this whole town, pull out all these misaligned junctions, delete this, move it out of the way, have a depot on one side and a depot on the other side, and we might even have some trucks that ferry between the two. So instead of having all these vehicles from here coming in and out of the city, what we might do is we might have a couple of depots that are fed from a ring road, and then we have smaller vehicles that do this more frequently, and then we can plan for the future when the smaller vehicles going through the town are electric and the larger vehicles going around the ring road are diesel, hydrocarbon, whatever. That would completely destroy everything. It would destroy my population. My population would drop. The commercial premises, the shopping facilities, and therefore the jobs would drop, and then the demand would drop. So then all of the supply everywhere would drop. So then my profits on every train and every truck would drop, and I would lose a whole load of money doing that, doing that restructuring. It is a seriously big issue currently with Transport Fever 2, and one that I do not like very much. We should be able to upgrade our streets without that level of economic impact. Yes, fine. If you want to delete an entire street and build an entirely new street, there's got to be an impact. I get it. But you also have to realize that there's not a lot of people here. For the scale of this town, there's not a lot of people. So even a small change can have incrementally more massive impact than it should have. So this is going to be a problem. So we're going to have to tackle this in little stages. So we're going to have to identify where there is significant issues. Now, Arrecife in particular is posing me a little bit of a psychological and mental challenge because we have so many things moving around here and so many trucks. We really need to come up with a methodology to make this more efficient. And we need to think about this in terms of the same way that you would think about rail, which is we need to separate out the transport networks from the civilian networks. And currently, that is not happening down here. You can see it's just a mess. And then we have these like rural roads that are still dirt and everything else. In terms of the speed and things, I don't know if it's going to show me here. Is it going to show me here? No, it's not. These vehicles are traveling at, what are they traveling at? He's traveling at 35, so that's probably the speed of the road. No, you see, he can go at 35. So they're not being held back. He can go at 40. Are there any of these guys down here? Probably this guy. What speed are you going at? So he's also going at 40. So these guys. So currently, these trucks aren't being held back by the fact that these are dirt roads. So while the newer roads up here have greater speed limits, it's not necessary at this stage to put those in place to increase speed limits. The only real benefit is that these with trees, so these are arguably meant to be the kind of like in city roads. I don't know if you pay more for them. 70 meters, 6,051, and this is 70 meters, 9,971. So you pay more for the newer roads than you do for these things, for example, because that medium street speed limit 50, this medium road speed limit 80. So you're paying more for an accelerated speed limit when you build. I don't think maintenance cost factors into it. So that's what we need to do. That's what I need to do, because we need to start thinking about one of the ways to improve this kind of stuff here in terms of demand is now efficiency in terms of getting it into the actual people that need it. So this whole area needs a complete rejigger for road. So this is the place we're going to start with. We're going to start with Arrecife, and we're going to have a look at, well, I'm going to have a look at the road networks and the various bits and pieces of where those road networks go and why they go there, and separating out as much as we can the cargo routes from the private routes. Now the issue is the cargo is easy. I can put in a waypoint. Private, different. because the private people will choose the path of least resistance. However, the private people here, yeah, Ines Suarez, for example, you can make them go where you want to go because they will choose the faster road. So if you put in, like I put this in here to try and get people, because they were coming through here. So I put this bypass in, and that took a whole load of pressure off, but it was only a temporary solution because I knew I was going to come back to this. So we need to think about that. So I need to do that. And do we want to do a ring road around Arrecife? I don't know, not necessarily for Arrecife because there's nowhere on this side that they're going to. Um, Eventually, perhaps, maybe a road network bridge taking it over to Coslada might not be off the cards. But for right now, I don't think we need to do that. I think for right now, what we need to do is we need to iron out this whole network of trucks that are all running around here. There is a bit of a congested network down here at Arrecife. We need to sort that out. We need to sort out this hub. I don't like it being here. It's impacting the place. I would like to iron out some of these junctions, which is going to cost me a little bit. I'll have to do it in stages. And then we need to see about how we neaten this up so that the road networks are something that is a little bit more efficient. Now, I think the simplest way for me to do that is I'm going to do that off camera, and then I'll bring you in when it's finished, and I'll show you what I've done and go through some of the things how I achieved that. Okay, so here's what it looks like now, and I'll bring you back when I've done the changes. I'll see you soon. Right, hello. Here we are. Here's what I've done. So there's a couple of things came out of this, and I'll have a little chat with you about that. So I have ironed this out a little bit, and I have neatened it out a little bit. This, however, this, however, could be considered to be a bit of an issue right now, and this is what happens. So that will be a little troubleshoot that I need to do. But essentially, what I have done is, for a start, I didn't have. So there's a cross-country connection between Antequera and Arrecife. I didn't have one with El Puerto, so I did that. So we have this loop. So I now have these buses, which are these things, and I've set this up with El Puerto as well, because one of the other ways to get your towns growing is outside connections. So you can see now that there's a lot of bus behavior starting to happen, and that's all great. And there's stuff here. The El Puerto Arrecife bus probably needs more buses. I only put on 5 to start with. So that's fine, I can double those. You know, the thing with all of this stuff is that you have to do it in stages and then see what happens. So, you know, then this happens, so then you need to deal with that, and then that happens, you need to deal with something else. So that's the kind of stuff that you need to do. So it is 1930, so a few years have elapsed. I haven't really done much with El Puerto, to be fair, but honestly, they don't seem to be having a traffic problem at the minute. That said, all of my vehicles are stuck here. So once I sort out whatever this problem is and these things start moving again, that will change. What I decided to do, and you may think this is crazy, you may not, is create a kind of a dual carriageway system. And this dual carriageway system is based on the fact that private vehicles, like Dylan here, take this route, which is the private route, and we have another private citizen there in Julia going that way. So they're all going that way. So then what I did was, for the cargo stuff, I set up a cargo specific route. So we have this cargo specific dual carriageway which connects these various cargo hubs, but doesn't go anywhere, because you have to be aware of short circuiting, like I've said before, because if I'd connected this, then some Turkey private citizen is going to drive there. So I did that, and I connected that system up. And then I neatened up some of the things around these. This just needed change to a better quality of road. This needed change to a better quality of road. That said, I made this wonky roundabout. Now you can do that yourself, but because we don't have roundabouts yet, we'll get them, but we don't have them yet. So you can do that with a one-way street, and you can set up a one-way street. Now, the way to do this, obviously we're going this way around. The way to do this is set up your street. Now, define a length. And in this case, you know, let's say it's 50 meters, which can be a bit of a trick. Now, 50 meters, you want to go at an angle. Oh, well, you want to get the right thing first. You want to get the bendy one. So you set it up for 50 meters. Which can be a bit of a trick. You then bend it at an angle until you get to 90 degrees. Now it's gotten a little bit longer, but that's fine. If you want to, you can shorten this back down, but you know, to like 50 meters, and you go boom, and you build that. And then you come out again, you know, you're sort of 50 meters, and then you go this way till you get to 90 degrees, and then you can shorten that down to 50 meters or thereabouts, and you do this as you progress around, and then you have to delete this bit. You delete that bit, which is your tail start, and then hopefully you do that and you get a roundabout, right? Man, sometimes when you connect the roads up, especially near transport and things, they go a bit wonky. But if you want to build your own roundabout, that's how you build your own roundabout. So just do that, etc., etc. So as soon as you've got one-way roads coming in, you can build your own roundabout. As you can see, I put a waypoint here because they don't always necessarily follow it. So I've put in some waypoints to try and make some of the pathfinding for some of these a little bit neater. So this guy's coming over here. So what I didn't want him to go back this way and create more traffic down here. So I told him to go around. So it's a little bit longer. And then they go here, and then they go all the way off to El Puerto, and then when they come back through here, and then they go back through there. I could probably avoid that by putting another waypoint here and make that a little bit better, and that's certainly an improvement to do. So I did that. For some of these other ones, it was piece of cake. I just disconnected most of the other roads and just made this a straightforward connection. So this guy here is only shuttling backwards and forwards between this plant. So there's no reason to go near the city. So I have done that. Same with the logs. The logs is going to the station, so they don't need to go near the city. So I just dealt with all of that, which is fine. Now, the other thing is, and I had to do a little bit of jiggery-pokery with some of the roads inside the city, which I've spoken to. And I've changed some, but not all. Once again, we need to be careful, because you can see there, just changing a few things causes my population to drop. Sorry, that was the dog. And I don't want it to drop too far. So I've done a little bit, and then the reason that that's also dropping is because these logs aren't delivering, and when they're not delivering, this registers it. You can see that we're losing tools and bricks and food and here and all the rest of it. So you do need to be careful with this stuff, and you do need to keep an eye on it. And I was off doing other things. Anyway, the other point is this hub that was here wasn't really serving the needs of the town very well, because everything was going there. Now, that's great, except if you have a look at who wants what. Fuel, and to a certain extent bricks, is aggregated on this side of the city. And tools and a little bit of food is aggregated on this side of the city. So what became apparent is it was going to be better to have this guy over here and this girl over here. And then what I've done is, this is a kind of a sub-hub. So this place is now gathering fuel. And then to make sure that all of the places that need fuel get fuel, I've put a stop there, which services a huge amount of the city. And I've put a stop there, which services that. So then I've put a couple of little trucks to supply this demand, and I'll manage that volume. So it's a little bit of extra handling, but it's a little bit like distribution centers, right? And logistics. So we have a train coming in. The train is over here away from the city because it's a cargo train, and it's going to create lots of emissions, and we don't want to trouble the city with those things, so all the rest of it. So we've got a cargo central hub where we're collecting things. We are then putting this to a transport distribution center closer to the city, and then we're taking it to the individual businesses. And that's kind of how logistics really works in the world. Right? You'll often find that that is the case in towns and cities, is that there's a major rail hub or a port, and then they go to distribution warehouses, and then those warehouses ship them out, and there may be multiple places they go. So I have taken that approach, and hopefully that will work just fine eventually. So what's happening down here at the minute, other than an awful lot of noise? Well, somebody is stuck. So this is to do with people being stuck. And it's stuck because we've got everybody on the one platform. So who's got the most amount of stuff waiting at the minute? El Puerto Machines Trucks. We'll move them to Terminal 1. What happens when we do that? Right? We have a lot of vehicles stuck. Now, part of the reasons vehicles get stuck is junctions too close to each other. So this here. So we have this road here, which is coming in here at a junction, and we have vehicles coming this way and vehicles coming that way. So let's see. In terms of routes, we have this one coming in here. Sorry, I didn't mean to go that far. We have this one, which is looping around, so also coming in there and possibly getting in the way. And we have this one, which is also coming in there and getting in the way. So all three routes are coming in through the same location. Now, is it possible? Also, this is misaligned. It might be. Let's do that. Is it possible to bring them in a different location? It is, but the way the cargo hubs run is that they all go through this central bit. So if I were to, for example, and one of the things that I want to do is delete these. I had an idea originally that the game would pathfind in an intelligent way, and it simply doesn't. So it's probably better to I don't know why the truck volumes are quite so noisy. It's probably better to just have one in and out, because they still do this. So they do this looping thing, which is, if they were to come in here, they would drive along the back here, and they would come through here, and then they would loop around. Or if their cargo was here, they would come through here, and then they would pick it up, and they would still come through here and loop around. So they're always going to come through this central area, which is a fantastic nuisance. However, now that I have gotten rid of those areas, I can add in an extra set of platforms. So I can add in an extra set of platforms. What that will do is, while it won't stop everyone coming through the middle, it will ease off on some of the congestion related issues. So who's next? Arrecife Steel Trucks. We'll move them to Terminal 2. So now we've spread everything out, and is there any way volume's gone a bit weird or something? I don't know. It's in the main settings. So they will now all start moving around. So let's let that shuffle about. And this is the other thing. We need to wait. See, these trucks will clear. Some of them are going away. There's some buses here. Where are they coming from? Not you. You. El Puerto Arrecife. Right, so this is another one. So El Puerto Arrecife has suddenly decided it wants to go through the cargo network because it sees it as a shortcut. I did say beware of shortcutting. So that's not going to be helpful for me. So I'm going to have to put a waypoint here, which is the way back. So they're so sneaky. You got to watch them. Watch them like an hawk, right? So there we are. They're going. They're coming to El Puerto. Then Alcala Orestes. Then what you want to do is you want to add a station. We want to get them out of our cargo network and put them back that way. Are they gone? They seem to be gone, right? So we don't need those people there. Of course, they're stuck now. Eventually they'll get out of here. Right. Now we're back to being stuck again. We've run across an issue where we have so much trucks that they're effectively getting in each other's way. So we're going to have to do something to move some vehicles. Unfortunately, some of that usually means that there's not a lot you can do other than change some road layout or delete some trucks because they get stuck in each other's way and essentially they won't move. So we need to try and these are going out. So we need to try and get people going in to start moving. This guy might be in the way and that guy might be in the way and this guy might be in the way. So we'll try and see if we can do that. Now you can see that this guy got in the way. So let's move him. Right, you're got in the way. So this is unfortunate because I haven't really found a better way to do this. We need to clear some space. And sadly, clearing some space sometimes means you have to delete some things. So we'll delete some things until we get some stuff moving smoothly. That's fine because we can go back and add in some more vehicles. It isn't the end of the world. We're looking at a bigger picture issue here. So we need to get this stuff moving along. And it's to do with those trucks at the end being a problem, which is fine. We can probably delete those. Right, they're moving. But again, we've got still too many trucks that are a problem, that are everyone's trying to get in. And we can't. There seems to be a loop. Why is there a loop? So who's coming in on a loop? They're going out on a loop because they're going out that way, which is entirely intentional. So it seems to me that that this is crying out for roundabout here, and then we add in all these places to the roundabout, and that helps move stuff about. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to try and delete the road such that we can move these trucks. So we can do that. So you have to delete backwards so that you don't end up with stuck trucks. And we can do it in stages so that we're creating a bit of space. So I'm running out of time on this one. So what I will do is I'll do that and then reconnect it and bring you back. I'll see you in a sec. Right, so here we are. We've created this kind of an octopus roundabout, which is fine. So you see now when you got like roundabouts and things start moving a little bit. There's a chance that it will jam up again because of the amount of traffic going through it. And it's not super perfect yet, but stuff is moving if moving slowly is the way. And what I want to do is check the routes. So that's still coming in and going out the right way. The steel trucks are coming in and going out the right way, and the machine trucks are coming in and going out the right way. So you'll see that this is now backing up around the roundabout, but it's moving, right? So we have movement, stuff is moving, it is moving along, it's just going to take a little bit of time. So if you do run across those kind of difficulties, and it's likely that you will as you're messing around and doing stuff, you can't necessarily foresee everything, and some things will change, like, you know, we had to put in this waypoint for the buses and so on and so forth. So if it happens, just work through it, you know, what's causing the problem, and if you have to delete some stuff and buy some stuff back later, it isn't super the end of the world, you know. And the other thing is, on these lines, are they set to full or not, because if they're waiting to be filled, you know, they might be hogging up a platform, which is fine. It depends on what you're trying to achieve with each particular transport route. So there you go. So we've been doing a little bit of that. So we're upgrading some roads. So we need to look into upgrading the road networks. And I have been looking at some of that in some of the other places and upgrading and changing some roads. Looking at things in the cities like, where are there traffic light junctions, and do we need them or not, and how do we change those kinds of things. So, you know, putting in waypoints and making sure that all of the cargo vehicles run around the outsides of the city, not through the centers of the city unless they absolutely need to, and various bits and pieces like that. So I'm gonna go around the rest of the cities and do that. And once we have the road networks working more efficiently, and we're happy with those, we will undoubtedly be going back again to have a look at our needs and our demands and say, well, why is this supply chain not working exactly the way I want it to work? And then going back into these kinds of things and back into the trains and having a look and saying with that. So we've done a lot of upgrading of the rail networks. We've got a lot of trains going. We went through the train hubs at Villa de Cans, Rivas and Ubeda and so on in Arrecife, and made sure that they were moving. We've electrified some things that we feel needed to. We're now moving some goods. We've now got to move goods around our city slightly more efficiently. Once we've got all that sorted, we'll go back and have a look again at our transport routes. Like I say, we might be running a road network over here to Coslada and Tomaluso, because currently they're not connected to the outside world via roads. That will help them grow. We really need... Coslada is up and down. Occasionally it will tell me it wants extra things, and then occasionally its population will drop again. So we really need some stability out of Coslada because it's being a bit of a pain. And yeah, and then we'll be moving into the post-war period, and we'll need to see where we go. And I appreciate I haven't talked about planes yet, and I did say I was going to do so. I will have to save a little conversation about planes for the next one. Anyway, that's all I have time for. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please click that like. Hey, if you're hitting the like button, why not subscribe? Neither of which is going to cost you a penny. And if you do have more than a penny to spare, why not check out my super thanks or check out my channel memberships? It really would help me out an awful lot. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you all for the next one. Ta-ta for now.